Today, I want to talk to you about something most people never admit. Not because they're ashamed, not because they're weak, because it's terrifying. I want to talk about what happens when hope leaves the room. Because there comes a moment in some people's lives when they stop believing things are going to get better. Not forever. Maybe not even for long, but for a moment, a day, a week, a month. They lose sight of the light. And if you've never been there, it's hard to understand. From the outside, everything might look normal. You might go to work. You still might answer texts. You still smile when people ask you how you're doing. You say, I'm fine. But you're not fine. You're exhausted. You're not physically exhausted. Your soul is exhausted. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind of tired that comes from carrying pain nobody else can see. The kind of tired that comes from fighting battles for so long that you can't remember what life felt like before the war. And eventually, the question begins to creep into your mind. What's the point? Not because you want to die, because you're tired of hurting. There's a difference, a big difference. People don't usually break all at once. They wear down slowly. One disappointment at a time. One betrayal at a time. One loss at a time. One funeral at a time. One sleepless night at a time. One bad phone call at a time. Until one day they find themselves sitting alone in a dark room, wondering how much more they can take. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there right now. Maybe you're listening to this while carrying something nobody knows about. A loss, a diagnosis, a divorce, a debt, a grief so deep you can't put it into words. Maybe you're fighting depression. Maybe you're battling addiction. Maybe you're watching someone you love disappear in front of your eyes. Maybe you're caring for a parent whose memories are fading. Maybe you're sitting beside a hospital bed. Maybe you're standing beside a grave. Maybe you're trying to survive something that feels impossible. And the truth is, life can be brutal. I know. People don't like hearing that. We're supposed to stay positive, right? We're supposed to smile. We're supposed to post inspirational quotes and pretend everything happens for a reason. But sometimes life hurts. Sometimes things happen that don't make sense. Sometimes good people suffer. Sometimes bad people win. Sometimes prayers go unanswered. Sometimes the person you need most walks away. Sometimes the person you love dies. And no amount of positive thinking changes that reality. Pain is real. Grief is real. Loss is real. And if you're hurting today, you don't need someone telling you to just think positive. You need someone willing to sit with you in the truth. The truth that life can break your heart. The truth that some wounds never fully heal. The truth that there are reasons where getting out of bed feels like a victory. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe getting through today is the hardest thing you've done all week. If so, I want you to hear me. There is nothing weak about struggling. Nothing. There's nothing weak about crying. There is nothing weak about grieving. There is nothing weak about admitting you're scared. Because fear is part of being human. Grief is part of being human. Pain is part of being human. And anybody who tells you otherwise hasn't lived long enough. The strongest people I've ever met weren't fearless. They were terrified. They just kept moving. I once heard someone say that grief is love with nowhere to go. And I think it's true. Because when you lose someone, you don't just lose them. You lose the future you imagined with them. You lose the conversations, the holidays, the memories that never got made, the moments that should have happened. And for a while, the world feels wrong. People laugh when you don't feel like laughing. Life keeps moving when yours feels frozen. The sun comes up when all you want is darkness, and it feels unfair because it is. Grief isn't fair. Loss isn't fair. Death isn't fair. But life has never promised fairness. Life promised opportunity. Life promised uncertainty. Life promised change. And sometimes that change arrives wearing the face of tragedy. That's the part nobody tells you. Nobody tells you how lonely grief can be. At first, everyone calls. Everyone checks on you. Everyone says they're here if you need them. But eventually life moves on for them. Not for you. You still carry it. You still wake up with it. You still go to sleep with it. You still feel the absence. The empty chair. The missing voice. The silence. And that's when many people begin losing hope. Not at the beginning, months later. When everyone else has gone back to normal. When you're still trying to figure out how to breathe. That's when hope quietly leaves the room. And if you've ever experienced that, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You are grieving. You're hurting. You are human. And there's a difference. Because broken implies something cannot be repaired. Pain is not proof you're broken. Pain is proof that something mattered. Pain is proof you loved. Pain is proof you cared. Pain is proof that your heart is still alive. And strangely enough, that pain may also be proof that hope is still alive. Because hopeless people don't listen to podcasts like this. Hopeless people don't keep searching. Hopeless people don't keep fighting. The fact that you're listening right now tells me something. A small part of you still believes tomorrow might be different. A small part of you still believes healing is possible. A small part of you refuses to quit. And that part matters. Protect that part. Feed that part. Listen to that part. Because recovery doesn't happen all at once. Nobody wakes up one moment and says, I'm healed. That's not how it works. Healing is smaller than that. Healing is taking a shower when you don't want to. Healing is answering one phone call. Healing is taking one walk. Healing is eating one meal. Healing is surviving one more day, then another, then another. People think resilience is some grand heroic act. Most of the time it isn't. Most of the time, resilience looks ordinary. It looks like getting up. It looks like trying again. It looks like refusing to quit, even when you want to, especially when you want to. And here's what I've learned from people who survived things that should have destroyed them. People who buried children, people who buried spouses, people who survived war, people who survived addiction, people who survived prison, people who survived tragedy. They all discovered the same thing. Hope isn't a feeling. Hope is a decision. A decision to believe that today's pain is not the final chapter. A decision to believe that tomorrow deserves a chance. A decision to keep walking over when you can't see the destination, because eventually something changes. Not overnight. Not dramatically. Slowly. The pain gets a little lighter. The darkness gets a little thinner. The breathing gets a little easier. Your laugh again, not because you forgot, because you survived. And one day you'll realize something remarkable. The thing that nearly destroyed you didn't. The thing that convinced you life was over wasn't the end. It was a chapter, a terrible chapter, a painful chapter, a chapter you never would have chosen, but not the end of the book. Because as long as you're breathing, as long as your heart is beating, as long as there is air in your lungs, your story is still being written. And if your story is still being written, then hope still has a seat at the table. Maybe it's quiet right now. Maybe it's wounded. Maybe it's hiding in the corner. But it's there. And today, that's enough. You don't need to conquer the next year. You don't need to solve your entire life. You don't need all the answers. You just need to make it through today. One breath. One step. 1 hour. One day. And tomorrow, we'll do it again. My name is LeRoy Nellis. This is Resilient Radio. And if hope has left the room, keep the door open, because it may be closer than you think. I hope to see you for the next one.
Battle drum beating louder, a force you'll never